Well, we had over 50 people register for this mastermind. So a lot of folks are tardy to the party yet. We are recording, so I'm going to be sending out a replay for folks that can't make it today. So without further ado, I do want to get us kickstarted because we got lots to talk about. We've only got 1 hour with the fabulous Miss Sheena today. So, hey, Daniel, welcome.
How are you guys doing? Love to be here. Love to be here and love to see Sheena. I'm really excited to hear all about her adventure, her story. She's amazing, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurs and visionaries, welcome to the heart of transformation with this mastermind today. I am honored that I get to bring my friend and fellow rock star Sheena Saydam to the table today for us to connect with, learn from, grow, get some inspiration, some cultivation. Most importantly, I want folks to walk away with some things that they can tangibly implement into their businesses, because that's the whole point behind these masterminds. I want to inspire, I want to cultivate ideas, and then I want you guys to walk away and activate that into your lives and into your businesses. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lindsay Litton. I am now doing coaching and consulting. I've built real estate businesses. I'm an active duty military spouse and built a referral network that closed over 100 million in referrals nationally and sold both my businesses, and now have jumped into coaching and consulting. I love bringing other change makers to the table, so I am honored that we get to do that in this form. And how cool is it that all of us can be driving in our cars, sitting in our living rooms, coming together on a Zoom, getting ideas from friends all over the country, and getting to connect with people that were just on stage at family reunion. So Sheena, for those of you who don't know, she is our guest and beacon of light in the real estate world, a true trailblazer whose dedication to service has not only reshaped her industry, but she's touched lives around the globe. Her generosity and what they have done to redefine success in real estate has woven a tapestry of generosity and impact that stretches far beyond the confines of her business. From clean water initiatives in Africa to educational endeavors in local communities, Sheena and her team have demonstrated that true success is measured not just in transactions, but in lives transformed through communities and uplifting others. So I'm super excited that she's here to join us. So Sheena, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my God. I should use some of that language. I was like, oh my God. Thank you.
Well, little secret, ChatGPT is freaking awesome.
Yes. I see all the AIs on here. I'm like, God, we are in a different world now. Woo, the robots are coming.
I know. I keep trying to deny the AIs from getting in. So friends, thank you guys so much for joining us and for spending your precious time with us. I want to tell you, I am just your MC. Sheena is going to be the star today. So if you have questions, if you have things that you want to talk about with Sheena, pop them into the chat and I'm going to make sure that I get them queued up here for Miss Sheena. So today we really advertise this session as negotiation. And when I messaged Sheena yesterday, I was like, hey, what are some of the things that you want to talk about? They had nothing to do with negotiations, but everything to do with negotiations. So I'm going to weave a tapestry here together. So one of the things that I want to talk about, and I know Sheena, you're really passionate about talking about how leaders can succeed in changing markets, right?
Yeah.
And when you sent me that topic yesterday, I was like, well, this doesn't have to do with negotiations. And then I thought to myself, oh, it so does. Because every single day we negotiate what we are going to do in our business and what we're going to do in our lives. And the change that this market is demanding from us is also a negotiation. Yes. So Sheena, talk to us about this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Even what I've kind of modified I have a 2-3 hour negotiations class. Actually, I think I made it down to 1.5 hours. So if anybody wants that for their market center, that is something I teach, but I've been thinking about it because I've been thinking about it in a much broader sense, as after, you know, taking some time, I try to take time every day to look at my business and go, what are we really doing? And what do we need to be doing? What's going on in the market? What needs do we need to be meeting, or, you know, getting ahead of the market, where other agents are kind of just doing the same thing every day? Because the market is consistently changing, right? Even from January to February to March, like, ooh, we had a little slump in February. I mean, January was pretty good, then February was a slump, and like now we're starting to see more listings, thank goodness. But when I think about negotiating, I think about it as influencing, right? Like what Lindsay said, we are influencing a situation. And as leaders, it is on us to be the first ones to pivot, to be the first ones to communicate a message that is going to help us to stand out. And so I think about this in a few ways. One way is, we a lot of times to think about negotiations, like once we get into the deal, what do we say? Or once we get into the buyer consult or the seller consult, what do we say? How do we negotiate our way to a successful conclusion? That negotiation begins way before, especially if you're referral based, especially if you're social media based. And where does that start? In the content that you're putting out there to social media. Do you have consistency in what you are putting out there? And do your words stand out from what other agents are saying? Most likely everyone you know who follows you on social media, even your past clients, they know 10 other real estate agents. So what are you doing to set yourself apart? What message are you putting out there that is different from what everybody else is putting out there on a very consistent basis? How are you staying ahead? And a few little tricks I think about is, number one, take a deep dive look at all your clients and what is the challenge we're trying to get them through, right? Go back to being a consultant, especially if you had buyers and sellers from like 6 months ago, nothing's happened, especially buyers. What is their challenge now? I think we need to redo our buyer consults, have another buyer consult with them. If you've just been doing the whole check-in thing, where are they now? Life has probably changed. So how are we going to move them through to success? And once you have a better sense of what people are struggling with, you know what other buyers who haven't contacted you might be struggling with, or other sellers. A lot of sellers right now, people who are able to sell, are 50 and over, and their biggest struggle is, what do I do with all my stuff? So if you're not meeting that demand and proactively showing people again and again and again, hey, I'm going to take away that problem for you. I'm going to bring in a professional organizer. I'm going to bring in somebody, an estate sale person. Like, we need to be solving people's problems to attract them into our business. Otherwise, they're just going to go with the person who they went to the open house with. So that's one negotiation. And I think the second piece is you as a leader, we can't, like, sometimes we get into this position where we feel like, oh, the market's going down, I have to put extra pressure on my team. Come on, guys, push harder, push harder. That's only that can work for an extent, but at some point, if you're putting everyone into extreme ownership and not yourself, that's not going to work. We've all got to be rowing together. So when you come to your team and say, these are the changes we need to make, or we need to double down, you need to come in. It's important that you come in and say, this is what I'm going to do to change. This is how I'm doubling down, or else we're not in it together. You're just managing people. You're not leading them.
Ooh, it's so good. It's like fierce accountability back into owning your own leaders, like owning your own persons and the activities, right? Because I think it's really easy for all of us to get into this, like, our team is not pulling the weight. And let's be honest, it's taking more effort than it has in years past to get the same amount of deals on the books. So it's really easy to say from a place of leadership, positional leadership, because let's be honest, that's positional leadership. When you're saying, hey, guys, let's go, let's do the things, and you're not getting in the boat and rowing with them. Yep. So when this leadership topic is fun, because a lot of people have different definitions of what it means to be a leader. And as we grow our teams, I think it's really easy to, well, I will stand up and say, like, in the beginning, when I was growing my team, I was a horrible leader. Like, my entire team wanted to quit on me because of my leadership style. And I was leading as a positional leader, angry, yelling, like, come on, guys, let's go, let's do the things, right? That doesn't work. So Sheena, the queen of reading, if somebody is watching this presentation right now, or they're watching it on replay, what are some books? How do we start that leadership journey into becoming a motivational leader? Because that's what the market is really demanding us to do right now. And that's what our team members need from us. And even if you're a team of one with a couple virtual assistants, you
Mhm.
still need to be a really good leader.
Yeah. Totally. And even like if you plan to grow your team, even by another 5 hour a week person or a part-time agent, a showing agent, how are we attracting those people? You've got to be putting the messaging out there that is going to excite them, that's going to inspire them. And I do get a lot of inspiration from books. I just read this quote, and you guys have probably heard it. It was transformed people transform people. Transform people, transform people. And I think a lot of Lindsay, I did the same thing, and half my team quit years ago, like 6 years ago. It was a really great learning experience for me. I was in a positional leadership. I had so much business. I could call myself a team leader, a mega agent, right? But I wasn't ready. And you can meet people, you can talk to people, you can come to masterminds like this, really, really critical. And I think the other piece is experiencing it, and reading can get you ahead, right? It's like a highway to getting that information, because you can read about other people's mistakes and transforming. And I think the biggest thing I think that we miss, and this is something I've been saying for the last 6 months, is we focus so much on these business books. First of all, they have like a 6th grade reading level. So like our analysis skills are impacted by that. Our ability to communicate is impacted by that. And oftentimes we feel like, God, I'm reading the same thing over and over again. It's because you are. So maybe put that aside. Every once in a while, a good business book, great big business book comes out. But I think once you've figured out how, we need to build systems, we need to build models. Okay. The most important thing over anything is probably to understand people. So understanding why people behave the way that they do, understanding how to inspire people, moving away from this idea of we have to manage people. Not a single person on this call wants to be managed. Anyone else triggered when someone says that you want to be managed? Like, oh, no, nobody. Everybody wants freedom, right? To some extent, they want support and they want freedom. So some books that I would recommend that help me at least, Ego is the Enemy. I think that's a great one. Ego is the Enemy. Who wrote that, Lindsay? That famous.
Oh, yeah, he's a Stoic writer. He also wrote Stillness, which is one of my favorites that he wrote.
Ryan Holiday? Holiday?
Yeah, Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday. So that's a great one. Brendan Bouchard's High Performance Habits, which I think is important because, again, you can say all the things of what people should be doing, but if you're not demonstrating how you're able to change, modify, you're doubling down. I think sometimes we kind of get into this role where it's like, we feel ashamed if we have to go back into production, or if we have to go back into whatever it is, right? I didn't go back. I haven't gone back into production, but I have gone back into meeting my team on a regular basis, where I put that more on my husband, but now we're kind of both doing it. So it's okay to step back in. There's no shame in that. Like, we got to do what we got to do as lead. That's real leadership, right? Taking the ego out. So those are great ones. Necessary Endings is a beautiful book by Henry Cloud. There's 2 books with that name, so make sure you get the Dr. Henry Cloud one. And that book is about how to end relationships and to have real conversations with people where you may have to give them bad news, but to do it in a loving way. So that's a wonderful one. Anything by Brene Brown, anything around vulnerability, really, really important, especially if you didn't grow up with that, where people tell you, how they feel, or you're a people pleaser. Anything around that is going to be really good. There's a book called Surrounded by Idiots. Yeah, it's an easy read. You read that one. Oh, Josh, I think we talked about that one. Yeah. What did you think about that? What was your takeaway from that book? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah. So it's been added to my list. I got the notes from ChatGPT, but you gave me like 5 of them, and it's like number 3. So I'm excited about it, but I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Awesome. I also
wait.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
1 second. What are you doing with ChatGPT that's giving you notes from books? Are you asking it to recap things for you?
Give me 2 minutes and I'll send you something.
Is anybody else intrigued by that? Because I was like, wait. What is this?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Sheena. I had to get that little tidbit out there.
I also read a lot of books on civil rights leaders and radicals. I read the Bible, this. I'm just looking for inspiration, how to love people better, how to, how to communicate better. Barack Obama's latest book, all his books actually, just understanding communication. I didn't know this. I guess I was pretty young when he was president, but he was really attacked by both sides, by his party and the other party. And the way he talks about analyzing issues from 3 different perspectives, you know, like trying to think outside the box and to think beyond what the box requires. I think we can learn a lot from leaders. So read books by leaders, read memoirs by them. That's kind of the direction I've gone in. It's given me a lot more ideas than the usual books that, you know, maybe KW is like, read this, read this, read this, on what everyone else is reading. I think we have a lot to learn from leaders outside of the industry as well.
Well, I love that you kind of talked about broadening our like vision beyond just our industry, because while our industry is, yes, there's nuances and things in our industry that we can all relate to, and it's helpful for us to read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and all the different books that are recommended. All businesses operate from very similar foundations. And so it's really fun to learn from big organizations like Starbucks or how did they scale, right?
Mhm.
We kind of get siloed in thinking, okay, this is the only way to scale within the real estate business. I got to, bring in my admin, and then I got to work on my systems, and then I got to do this. And it's like, I don't know, Starbucks scaled at a really fast pace. Maybe there's some lessons there and things that we can incorporate into our business. So I love that you touched on that, Sheena. Before we move forward on that, who here is struggling with getting their leadership journey going? Who wants to admit that? Like, they're struggle busting on their leadership journey. Don't know where to start. All right, I've got now a new read list from Sheena, but they're really struggling in their business and leading their team, and or scared to even make their first hire because they don't want to be a bad leader. Is there anyone feeling that currently?
Yeah, if you
Everybody's just awesome.
Sometimes I find like we don't have the training set up. When will I have time to train this person, or I don't have it all figured out? Is that you, Amber? What's the specific, or Daisy? Maybe that's it.
Yeah. So for me, I started a team a couple years ago, and it was very difficult for me. I did all the things that were recommended, like the courses through KW and everything. But it was a struggle, I think, once I was actually in that position to lead the team the way that was beneficial for everyone. And so the team dissolved at the beginning of 2023. And I just have been like on a solo journey with myself and an admin since then until now. And I do want to look into slowly growing a team again, but that was just like such an experience that really kind of drained me to a point where I just was not sure if I wanted to even go down that path again. It took me a long time to kind of come back around to the idea of having a team. So yes, I am definitely on that struggle bus with leadership. And I think just knowing the boundaries and kind of like what you were saying, not being in a positional leadership, but also like rowing the boat. I'm kind of the opposite of where like I row the boat too much and everyone else is just kind of there. So like on the opposite side of that, I think is where my biggest struggle probably is at.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, because you're not alone in that. And the first thing I would say, which you kind of maybe sort of touched on, is like, I've noticed when these business things don't work out, Lindsay and I have talked a lot about this, you have to give yourself time to grieve. I don't think we talk about that enough. Lindsay and I have been talking about, like, it is just like a relationship ending. It doesn't have to be about love, but this business that you've invested in, these humans who you trusted, and it didn't work out, give yourself time to grieve. Don't let anybody tell you, just move on, just get over it, just keep hiring. You have got to give yourself time to grieve, like allow yourself that. And then asking those questions, if I had to do it again, what would I have done differently? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have. I think like what you're saying about giving yourself time to grieve. I kind of like had to pick up the pieces and get like into like, just super focused production, to get like my numbers and everything back up to where they needed to be. So I could clear my mind enough to not be focused so much like on finances, to be able to look at that and ask myself those questions, like, what would I do differently? And honestly, it's only been within like the last maybe 2 to 3 months that I have been in a like position mentally to be able to say what would I have done differently, and the things that I felt were done, maybe wrong. I have like forgiven that and let it go, and it's okay. Like, now, how can I look at myself as a leader, and what could I do differently next time?
I love that. I think one of the things I've found for myself, and I think I've seen this with others as well, is you have this dream, you build something, and you don't necessarily bring on the right people, and maybe we're not ready yet, but maybe we also bring on not the right people, and then we think it can't be done. There just aren't people there. It's just, so we lose hope. And it sometimes takes hiring that one person who is like, oh my God, this person helped me get to the next level, for that to, for someone to believe in that and have the faith. And I would just say, if you're listening on this call and you're like, oh, that has happened to me, I'm like, I will never hire again. I don't believe that we all need to grow massive businesses. I think that we should really be focused on, we ought to think more about growing businesses of significance, something that is meaningful to us, that brings us the kind of life that we're looking for. And for most of us, that does mean hiring a few people. But it does mean hiring the right people and taking time to think about, just like we sometimes think, we're coached on ideal client. Who does that look like? I want to know exactly, like, take some time to write down, do that exercise, what they look like, what they sound like. I had a woman on my panel, Amanda out of Dallas, and she said, Gracie is her name. That is who I am talking to when I talk on social media, right? It's this young woman. She's in her 30s. She has 2 kids. She's looking for a house in the suburbs. She knows her, but do you know exactly, if you saw your next hire in front of you, would you know it? That's the person? Because you could find them anywhere, but you have to know what you're looking for and have real clarity on that to be able to find the right people. So that's an exercise that could be really valuable.
I love that so much, because we had a persona for my last business. Her name was Brittany. She drove a Sienna minivan. She liked to shop at Target. She had 2 young kids. She wanted a Stanley, but she owned a family. Like it, like it really helps to know who you're talking to, because that really helped us understand what kind of giveaways, what kind of incentives, how can we talk to Brittany in a language that she's going to relate to. And that's when the wildfire took off. And the same thing happens for your business. So I love that you tied that into, finding your ideal person.
Thank you. I've been wanting to share that little, I came away with that family reunion after Amanda said that. I went, man, you could do that for hires too. So thanks for letting me share my new idea that probably someone else has come up with too, but I just hadn't heard it before. So.
Well, I want to dip a little bit into that piece, if we can, for just a second, because this really helped me on my own leadership journey. Before we can bring somebody into our business, I think it's really important for us to understand who we are and how we operate, and who is going to complement our unique style, and who can help keep us in our zone of genius, right?
Yeah.
And there's tools out there. The tool that I like to use is a DISC assessment. I don't use the free Tony Robbins DISC assessment. My DISC assessment actually is 80 pages and talks about behavior and motivation, and it really goes into depth. And what I like about that is that when I start working with a new client in the coaching world, it's like, let's understand you as a leader and your tendencies. And that helps us define who is our Gracie, right? Who is that person that is going to complement us? Because I think it's really easy to get set into the trap that, Keller Williams says that I'm looking for a perfect SC that's going to sit at their desk, and they're going to come into my office. And let me tell you guys, I hired those people, and I really hate going into my office every day. So virtual assistants work really great for me. And a Slack channel, when I can just put things that I want done in there with a couple Loom videos, works really well for me. But I didn't really understand that until I dove into understanding me. So Sheena, what are some ways that people can really understand themselves before they start bringing other people into the circus?
I mean, I would agree with you. I think one of the key things is using some of those tools. We do use the KPA. I think DISC is really helpful too. KPA for me is just like the easiest cheat sheet thing. I'm not as, like, I've done the disc, I'm just not, you can probably read that as easy as I can read a KPA. But I think that's really great. And so when you have clarity on that, so you know who to hire to, and again, who's going to be those triggers for you, and also what you need your environment to look like. Because like you, Lindsay, like the SC personality, that can be tough if you're kind of the DI, because you're coming with all these ideas and it may feel like it's like, no, 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 or it's too much. So if you can have like the virtual thing, I think that's great. Also, if you've got a bunch of chatterboxes on your team, which is quite a few of my agents, which is wonderful in certain settings and wonderful to get clients. But for me, ADHD and all the other things, like I can't have that distraction. I just can't lead well if I'm distracted all the time. So again, we are a completely virtual office. Which has, some drawbacks as well, but for the most part, it really works for us. And it also makes me think about who I can hire, right? I've been actually my latest job ad for hiring agents. I put self-starter in there. I added a few words that I wouldn't have thought of before, because a lot of times I think what we do is we assume that how we are is how other people are. And sure, we tend to hire people that are like us. That's true. But some people do need a little bit more accountability, especially if they're joining a team. Like these, most likely you're not hiring somebody who wants to lead something. So they do want that, loving accountability. They do need those check-ins, want those check-ins and support. So I think those tools are really great. Also really, really important to surround yourself with people who are going to tell you the truth about you. People who you can call. Like I know that I could call Lindsay up at any time and several people on this call and be like, look, this happened. Tell me be honest with me. Is that what you would have done? Or did I make the move I should have made here? So for people to be honest with you and show you when you've maybe gone down the wrong path, I think that's really critical. And then being open to making those changes. And that's like being honest with your team, right? I've had this conversation with a lot of team owners, because I've had to do it myself, where I've been going down maybe the high D path when things aren't going so well, and it has a negative effect on the team. And so I've had to go back to my team and say, oh my God, you guys, how I've been leading or supposedly leading over the last 3 months, it has not been good for this team. And I am so sorry. And I thought that's what was needed, like to just be completely vulnerable. And that will also open up space for them. Another thing that we do, I'll just add this one last piece, besides the books that we mentioned, like the disc, the book on Surrounded by Idiots, which goes deep into disc and different personality types, each one, and tells you why people behave a certain way. Sometimes you think, God, is this just like a bad person? Well, maybe that's just like their behavioral type. So, and maybe they are bad, but reading that can give you some clarity. But what was that final piece I was going to mention? Oh, we give everyone on our team a survey. It's different for staff than it is for agents, but it's basically asking them the value. They have to rank it 1 to 5 on all the services we provide, on our coaching, on our training, on, funding, paying for showing agent fees and that sort of thing. That came out of a few things. One, some people were leaving and we weren't sure why. It's because we weren't checking in enough and we didn't really understand what the value was. We kept innovating, we kept giving them things, but it wasn't solving the actual problem. So we have more conversations with them, but also that survey, if they don't rank it a 5, and the survey is done with our director of operations. So if they don't rank it a 5, it's like done on a Zoom, then we say, what would make it a 5? Or maybe we find everyone's saying this isn't a valuable tool, so we remove it. So there are 2 things, reasons why that came about is, one, people were leaving and we weren't sure why. And then, we found out later, and then too late. And then the second piece was, we felt like people didn't understand the value of the team. So some people say, well, I just send a fake invoice to my team at the end of each month. Like, this is what value we brought to you, which I think is not a bad idea. But also getting into that, I think it's just an even exchange, and we remind people of the value, and then they can let us know what they think, if that truly is valuable, because they are, in effect, our clients now.
Well, and I love that you touched on, getting feedback from your team, because it's a 2-way street, and we're talking about leadership. It's motivating people, really understanding where they're coming from, so that you can help usher them to achieve what they want. I want to dive into some non-negotiable things, because I think you touched on, I'm tying back in that negotiation thing. And Amber mentioned this earlier, so I want to touch on this. Let's talk about non-negotiable boundaries. Because Amber mentioned this, and I think this strikes a chord with a lot of folks. When you get into leadership, and you're leading for the first time, or maybe this is team 3.0, right? So who knows? Many of us have gone through many iterations of team before we decide, oh, it's not them, it's actually me, right? And I've got to change. So let's talk about non-negotiable boundaries that you create with your team members and your business that help you live a life of significance and success. Because I don't think we talk about that enough in our industry. And our industry demands that we're on 24/7. So talk to us a little bit about creating some of those non-negotiable boundaries for you.
That is such a great question. And when we do, it's funny when we do, and it is an issue for all of us, right? I think we often have to like go back because we get in this hamster wheel and we just keep doing, we're like unconscious most of the time. We're just doing, we're responding to things, and we lose sight of the fact that we don't have boundaries. So we work when we're sitting in front of our kids, guilty, right? Trying to get better at that. We tell our team, like, you don't have to work like crazy. You can take vacations, and then we don't take vacations, or we take vacations and we work. So like, how are you actually showing up? Are your words meeting your actions? And if you tell them these things and you're not actually able to do them, that can be kind of challenging, right? So we've set up processes for our team. Like, it's all set up. Like, if you go on vacation, here's who you need to tell. Here's all the information we need about your clients so that we can follow up. We have all these things put in place to protect them and their time. And then for my own business, I've been really clear. I try to be really clear on like, what are the priorities for the week? I don't necessarily have a perfect day every day, but I have a perfect week, I like to say. And basically it's like, I need to spend a certain amount of time with my kids. I need to work out 5 days a week. I need to prospect, every day, which has now become a habit. I don't have to put it on my calendar, but if it's not yet a habit, you time block it. So we talk about time blocking. And if you're like me and you're like, I don't want to be like every hour I'm scheduled. I do not. Like, that is my worst nightmare. I need to have the freedom to do my thing. But if I have like my 5 favorite things, like I just said, workout, I love to prospect, I love to read, I love to hang out with my kids. I don't know, make dinner 4 times a week. That is on my calendar. If it's not already habit. And I have the freedom to move it around during that day. If something comes up, then I just move it, but I do stay true to all those things. So I do think you have to make your schedule work for you, but it definitely needs to be on the calendar if it's not already a habit. Other boundaries. This is something my husband and I kind of, the one thing we get into some arguments, especially recently, about is if you have an agent on your team who's not producing. And when I first started, Gary Keller was always saying, if they're not producing at the right level standards, fire them. And that's what we did. It was hardcore. Like, if you're not bringing in business, bye. And then the philosophy around that started to change. And so we did too. And the idea was, teach them, how to fish. And if they don't do it, maybe it doesn't matter so much as long as they don't hurt the culture of the team, right? As long as they're not harming, but they're good people. And so that is what we have really focused on. We don't fire somebody if they don't hit their numbers. If they lie, cheat, steal, any of that, complete, like one shot and you're gone. But that is something I sort of still struggle with a little bit when we're investing so much in agents and I just don't see them showing up. And a lot of it comes down to fear. And so we do have a lot of conversations around that. But I think where we've landed, because I'm more of a high D, I think, than he is. He has a lot, well, I should say he has a lot of patience. He's got a lot of C in him too, where I'm like, okay, this is just not happening. Let's just let them go, love them somewhere else. I think where we landed was, as long as they're progressing, even if it's baby steps, if we can move them forward in every conversation, if every week they're doing a little bit more, then they get to stay. Because I think the one thing I struggle with is, like, when you have high performing people on their team, they don't want to be around low performing people, right? I mean, I have a very the highest performer in our team. If I put a job ad out there for other agents, she posts it everywhere. She's not afraid of competition. She's not afraid of somebody coming in and her having to show up, even better. And that's exciting to have somebody like that. But I guess we are still trying to be a place where we're here. If you're a good human, if you want to work part-time, that's okay. But I will say that is a continued struggle of like who we keep here and talking about boundaries. So yeah.
Well, I think boundaries are important. I personally have learned, because I didn't have any boundaries as a leader before, and then saw what that kind of produces. And then now I feel like I teeter between, I have too many boundaries, and like you, Sheena, I'm a free spirit. You can't tame this horse with a calendar that is blocked out every minute of the day. So I have to create that free space. Otherwise, I just shut it all down and I mountain bike for 8 hours. And it's like, yeah, good luck getting in touch with me. So I think there's an even balance of boundaries, yet boundaries are really important to the success of your business and the success of your life.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about community, and I want to talk a little bit about giving back through our businesses and building businesses of significance.
Mhm.
So for those of you that don't know how much Sheena gives and how much she cares about community, I'll highlight a little bit of it, but I'm going to butcher it. So I'm going to ask Sheena that you just step in. Charitable giving is a huge part of what her business does. I have seen this woman over the last decade build shower trucks that give showers to the homeless community in her local area. I have seen her stand on stage and raise $30,000 to build wells in third world countries that are giving back clean water. I have seen her advocate for people that don't have voices and can't get into the rooms that Sheena can get into, and be the bridge between getting the funds and the resources that these people need and actually showing up in these countries, driving down these dirt roads and delivering, meeting with people. And I have seen her do that through her business. So Sheena, talk to us a little bit, and let me just also steal your thunder and say this woman gave 500,000. Is it 500,000 last year? How much did you give?
Well, we're up to 650 total.
Okay, yeah. See,
one day I'm going to give $1 million in 1 year. One day, that's the yeah.
We're going to help you get there. We're going to help you get there, because there's an important aspect of this that I really want to highlight. It's Sheena doesn't do this by herself. Sheena has created a community, and because of the community that she has created, it has created a ripple effect among others that are here to support her, not only in her business, right? Because she's built this beautiful connection with people in this community, and she gets tons of referrals, all those things that drives business. Yet she's then able to take that business and turn it into significance. So Sheena, talk to us a little bit about building that community, because I know I was reading the statistic. Yes, I like to read. Not I can't even read as much as Sheena, but I do read a lot. And the stat that I read the other day was 2 out of 3 people are lonely. Only 12% of the population is willing to admit it, which means there's a lot of people on this call that are lonely right now and struggling to find their community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sheena, what can we do to help people start figuring out how they get plugged into community so that they can become trailblazers and change makers in their local community? They can get tied into charities. They can get tied into things that bring significance beyond selling thousands of houses.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, you'll sell 200,000 houses. I talk to agents that sell 200, 500,
yeah,
1,000 houses, and they don't feel any more fulfilled than an agent that sells 30.
Yeah. Because it does. Honestly, I think for a lot of us, it becomes transactional. I mean, it is also when you get a client, right? I have the same reaction. I remember the first time I got a client to yesterday. I'm like, oh my God, they want to work with us. Like that never gets old for me. And yeah, that statistic on loneliness is crazy and real. And I used to talk all about women's empowerment, all the things, and reading a lot about patriarchy. I'll just say it, men. That a lot of that is around men and loneliness, and women are really good at creating community. Women are really good at connecting and gathering, but men are not so much, and men need a leader. So if you are a man on this call, the time is ripe for you to create community in your area of like just getting guys together, whether it's basketball once a week, whether it's hiking, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's about talking about finances, wealth building, that sort of thing. Maybe it's a book club, you know, books for men or something. What do you want to call it? I don't know. I'm not a man. But this is a huge, huge need. Depression, really big, and men often don't want to talk about it. Right. So we have that in my own family. I'll just go ahead and say that. I've had men on my team who have had real struggles with this. So I think making space for that, God, we really ought to be leveraging our networks for good. And there is so much need out there. There are so many people suffering. So what can we do to help alleviate that, to change that, to connect people, to build something really awesome with our business? And I promise you, we'll sell more homes, right? Like that's not necessarily the leading thing, but to be honest, if you're not selling homes, for better or worse, we are in a very capitalistic society, and the more money you have, the more power you have. So if you can sell more homes, you can have more power to change things, right? So using your money, using your platform on social media, utilizing those things. I won't tell the whole story because I know a lot of you have heard it before, but let me plug my computer in. I went to a women's empowerment event, gosh, maybe 8 or 9 years ago in Baltimore, which is about an hour north of me. And I met a couple who they'd been helping the homeless for 6 years, clothing, feeding, all the things. But the one thing that was impossible to get in Baltimore at the time was a clean, safe place to get a shower. And so that's where it really began. I was selling probably 25, no, probably not even that many homes at that time. I was selling, I felt like consistent, right? I only needed to sell 4 homes in order to make as much as I made in my nonprofit job. So if I could sell 10 homes in a year, I was like, oh my God. I said, I want to help build a shower truck for the homeless. And with every deal, so I went every buyer, every seller I talked to on social media, you would always see, if you work with us, you'll get great service, and we're going to be building the shower truck for the homeless. So I'm constantly putting that messaging out there, which, by the way, we're doing this clean water well project. You have to donate $500 over the next 3 months, like $500 total, $167 a month, and you can be part of this clean water project we're doing with a bunch of real estate agents. If you want in, just message me.
Pause for a quick second.
Yeah.
Who wants in on that right now? Raise hand. Come on. Who wants? Yeah, okay, Kimber's in. Yeah, Amber's in. Anyone else? Come on.
This is like high pressure sales. Just raise your hand. You don't have to do anything.
All right. See, we got 2 right there. $1,000 going to clean water. And how did we do that? We did that through our community. Guys, this stuff, it's not science, right? Like $1,000 on a Zoom call today is going to go change lives in third world countries. Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to connect you guys after the call so that we make sure we get the money going where it needs to go. Okay.
Thank you. And like what I do in that group, and this is what I did. This is still part of that story of the shower truck is, I will teach you how I did it, where I'm literally giving you a script every other day or every 3 days to post on social media. Here's the media, here's the picture, here's what to say to tie your business back to the work that we're doing. Because look, everybody knows 10 real estate agents. So what are you going to do to stand out? Right? And you will actually be doing good. $40 provides water for 1 person. So you alone will help about 12 people with this project. My goal was to get 20 people into the project. I think we're at over 50, which means 25,000, which means over 600 people are going to get clean water. It's pretty extraordinary. And so, but it's really about that consistency and putting the word out there, helping to set you apart. But your original question was like how to grow this. Was that how to grow the generosity piece?
Well, I think it's just opening the conversation for folks to think about how their business can be a catalyst for change, right? And I think the project that you're doing is phenomenal. And I want people to get inspired by that project. And then I want them to think about how to amplify that project, like within their local communities or within what you're doing, right? Yeah. Thinking beyond ourselves, going out, helping others feeds joy and happiness. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to become happier, go help someone. Like literally, I know you read Bob, I'm going to say his name wrong.
Goff.
Yeah. Goff. And it's all about generosity, helping, love, mm-hmm. right? And what is more loving than giving back to your local community? So thank you guys for making the commitment to support this initiative, because it's a vote for your own happiness. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people go in, sorry, I would just want to say this one little bit about chasing the moving horizon. a lot of people think, oh, when I sell 200 houses, I'm going to be happy. Or when I sell 1,000 houses, I'm going to be happy. Sheena, how many agents do you know that sell 2,000 houses a year and are not happy?
Yeah.
You can be happy today contributing and doing initiatives like this in your business. We've got a hand raised from Agent Pete in Maryland. Agent Pete, do you want to unmute?
Sorry, I was driving. I just wanted to, I'm into. I couldn't type. Or raise my hand then.
You're awesome.
Oh, yeah, Agent Pete. Okay, we got $1,500.
This is awesome.
This is awesome.
I do want to say, because I know, you know, it is kind of a tough moment right now. I don't know about you guys, but I still like, okay, we sold, I don't know, 306 homes 2 years ago. And then like, we've all been, I think, pretty well the last few years, but then don't you still get those things where you're like, oh my God, I'm broke now. Oh, no one's called. And the next day you're like, oh, I'm so busy. The next day it's like, oh my God, it's like, okay. So I don't know if anyone else, maybe that's a problem. I should probably get checked out. But so getting that, but if you are feeling kind of at the bottom right now, it doesn't have to always be money. You don't have to just give money, right? The one thing I like about this project, it is money, but it's $10,000 to drill a well. You get in for 500. So like a lot of people couldn't do that alone, but together we can do this, right? And we can all take part and contribute. And but you can also volunteer for nonprofits and meet people, right? The name of the game in real estate is get in front of as many people as possible and get in real estate conversations. So you can easily call or, you know, walk over to nonprofits in your area. What is the volunteer opportunity here? And so you go and you're meeting people and you're adding them to Facebook. You're posting about, you know, real estate on social media. It really is that simple. When you're on Facebook, so we talk about in our team is we're not looking for buyers and sellers every day. We're not calling for buyers and sellers. We are looking for human beings to whom we can give value. We're constantly going out. There's so much need. Like Lindsay started this call. There's people who are lonely. There's people that are struggling. I found this insane statistic the other day. The amount of GoFundMe's 2 years ago for medical expenses was 200,000 in the United States. And there are people that don't know what GoFundMe is. So if you think that could be double, 200,000 people in America who cannot afford their healthcare bills. I have a really good friend who's like $500,000 in debt because her son has this really rare disease and the insurance only goes so far, especially for rare diseases. People are struggling. So what are we going to do to help these people? Could it be starting a letter writing campaign to your member of Congress, right? Could you gather people to do that for someone in your community? If you're going on following Nextdoor, if you're following local Facebook groups, you're going to see people who are in need. And if you can gather people and make change, make people's lives better, you're going to start to attract a lot more people. And again, that's the name of the game to grow a mission-driven business.
It just keeps coming back to community.
Yeah.
And it keeps coming back to, if we start looking at our business as just curating a community of people that are supporting our business, right? Because obviously we want a community of our Gracies and Brittnys and our ideals, right? That are here to go and do change. Yet the chances are Gracie and Brittny don't know how to turn around and give back to the community. So you can literally create these micro communities within your business and organization where you're educating your clients on how they too can participate and give back.
Mm-hmm.
Who here, because I'm all about building community, right? That's like one of my favorite things to do. Let's build community. Like, so these masterminds are a form of community. So if you're here and you're like, I'm lonely, like just tune in. We're going to build friends and we're going to support each other. But we've got 9 minutes. Who here wants to dig into something with Sheena? Who here has a question for her? I want to make sure that you're getting your questions answered.
Or Lindsay, she is an extraordinary coach. So throw that out there. I mean, you run some really big things.
So I have a question for Sheena, which actually I've been meaning to ask for a while. So I feel like you and is it Han? Yeah, you and Han are very similar. I feel like to me and Brett. We're like, Brett is like you, if like totally. Like when you said that whole thing about a time block, I have created this whole time block, and every time I show Brett, he's like, I'm not living my life on a schedule, you know. And not that I'm like, ooh, you know, but so I guess, so Brett and I absolutely do need to grow our team. So as of right now, we have like an ISA, 2 VAs, and then a buyer's agent, but we're totally like outgrowing that. And Brett is like all for like, hey, let's grow it. We've created the systems for me. I feel like it's hard because and this is probably like bad on my part. Sorry, but I feel like I will not find someone who will be as efficient as us. And I know that that's like a bad way to approach it, but how do you and Han go about that? Or how did you go about that when like growing?
To find, well, a lot of luck in all my successes. I always have to talk about that because God, the first person we hired, actually went to a transaction coordination, like online. I just wanted to get like a part-time person to handle my TC stuff. And the person who ran that, she's connected me with Callie, who's now our director of operations 9 years later. She lived she was in North Carolina, now she lives in Texas. And of course we're in DC. And she just is extremely detail oriented. She's like a high C and some S. So we kind of got lucky there, but also just being really clear about communications. I think we learned a lot from her of like what we wanted, and she helped us to figure out our non-negotiables and like what exactly we needed. So I think it starts with, Natalina, I think it starts with, again, that clarity on what you're looking for and non-negotiables. So like when you're writing that up, like put that out there so it attracts those people. So one of the things I think a lot, we did this a long time ago too, but people are like, I need someone to help with databases, transaction coordination. And it's like, what are those things? The people who are going to apply for staff positions are most likely going to be women. Most women, they have to have done or really fully understand 80% or more of that job ad. They have to feel completely comfortable to apply. A man only needs to know 50% of that. And they're like, I can do that. So we have to make sure, right, that it's accessible to women, and we need to speak in not industry terms. So being really clear. So can you think about any terms where you're like, okay, well, I need to make sure that they are nerdy on Excel spreadsheets, or they're obsessive with numbers, or they like planning, their stay-at-home mom, they love planning their trips. They're the one who plans it down to the T. Is that like the level of detail, or what are you most concerned about?
Well, so like, I guess more as, I mean, maybe you and Han aren't as different as Brett and I. So Brett and I, when we've talked about bringing on talent, I'm very much like, I don't mind going through 50 people, you know, or like as far as interviewing the right people. Whereas Brett's like, oh, I'll interview a few and then, you know, we'll just bring them on and see how it goes. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to very much bring on the right person. So I guess just more of you and Han, like how you approach things. Maybe you guys are more on the same page, you know, or not as different as me and Brett. And then, well, and then also Brad and I have a difference of opinion as far as like how many people we want to be on our team, because we have people coming to us all the time, like from our office saying, hey, can we join? Can we join? And Brett's always like, hey, maybe we should give them a chance. And I'm always like, well, I don't know if they're the right fit, because for me too, it's more than can they do the job, right? Because there's always going to be someone who can do the job, but will they fit with us? Will they vibe with us, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my question, well, is two questions. One, how is it to manage a big team? Because yours is pretty big. It's about like 10 to 15, right? Or
yeah, I think we've got 10, like 6 full-time agents, 4 part-time agents, and then we have 7 staff.
okay, yeah, because that's kind of like Brett's kind of like, well, maybe that's the direction we go. Whereas I kind of just want to go to the direction of, hey, let's just hire on a few more VAs, maybe a couple more buyer's agents, and leave it at that. Just have really high quality. So I guess how you feel about having a large team, like how that works with you and Han, and then also how you guys approach the interview process for that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Back for just a second, because I feel like we have a guest member here that is all about hiring. Kimber, can I steal your thunder just for 1 second? So Kimber here, you'll see in her thing. So she is a military spouse that owns Workforce, which is a military spouse community that has over 80,000 military spouses in it. And her whole job is finding virtual positions for military spouses where the unemployment rate is 24%. And I know Sheena your staff is all military spouses, right?
Yeah, I think I did know that. Yeah.
So I just want to like give a little plug here to Kimber and say maybe you guys could connect too, because Kimber can kind of help you. Okay, so continue. Oh, Kimber, if you want to come on off mute and kind of give some feedback too. But yeah, I was like, I can't just let Kimber sit here and not say something.
Kimber, do you want to say something?
Well, I will say that, you know, everything that you said, Sheena, about women before is true and accurate. And the talent community that I work with, we're 98% female, but we see 3 times the amount of retention, loyalty, adaptability, problem-solving capabilities with the military spouse demographic than we do with any average civilian hire. So I'm talking placements that I made in 2018 as our first placements are still with their team members. Real estate is cool because not only do they understand that they are, because of the military lifestyle that we kind of intrinsically adapt, we know we're not the star of the show. We know that we are a part of a larger team. And so that's kind of bred into us as our family continues. So that demographic is a great one to hire from, but real estate and building teams as far as data entry, customer service, transaction coordinators, very interesting place to source your talent from because a lot of them have been in the industry before. And they've decided that since we are mobile, active duty, moving, this isn't a career for me that I can sustain, but they still love the business. So right now, one of my team members is in a call with someone that we hired who left a huge real estate firm in Texas where they only wanted her on site. And if she couldn't be on site, they didn't want her at all. That's a shame because she was their director of marketing, not a licensed team member, but the director of marketing for the entire office and their entire brand. She works for us now. So that, you know, there's a lot of opportunity there. There are a lot of spouses who have the experience that you need. And I just encourage you to look at that demographic when you need to build a team that you can rely on. And that is going to stick around long term.
Kimber, can I put your email address in the chat? Because I had a couple of people message me about that. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy to chat with anyone. I've got time later this afternoon. Got my nanny till 4:30, so I've got a couple of hours we can chat.
Awesome.
Kimber, I'd love to connect with you too. I have a business idea.
I was like, we literally, Kimber and I finished our coaching session before we jumped in the mastermind, and I said, you have to meet Sheena. So we need to get connected.
Well, and then a big thing for Lindsay too is in 2018, when I was thinking about starting this company, she mentored me on a few phone calls. She didn't know me from Adam or Eve, I should say. And she's the reason that we are, you know, in business and not a nonprofit. So thank you, Lindsay.
Oh, thanks, Kimber. It is, by the way, it is such a joy to see Kimber grow this community. And I just am so proud of her. Yeah. And the mission that she's doing and the people that she's serving, I couldn't think of. Obviously, I'm a little biased being a military spouse, but it's such an amazing community. So thank you, Kimber. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Sheena. Sorry.
It's fine. My mom was a military spouse, 22 years. I wish she had that opportunity. But to Madalena, I know we're running close on time, but I kind of choked when you were talking because I was like, oh my God, I have no patience for like 100 resumes. Like I cannot handle that. And my husband's like, put this out there. Like I've been really focused on hiring experienced agents, but it's been a little more difficult right now. So he's like, put it out there to like new people. It's fine. And I'm like, you are not going to, the questions that, and he's like, just send it all to me. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I was very clear, you could see probably in my job ad, I was very clear about what we're looking for, and still we got some crazy responses. And I would say you really just need a system. I will say we get very few applicants, but we get better applicants because we're very clear in our advertisement about what we're looking for and what we don't want, right? So people will very easily be able to say like, oh, this is for me, or this is not for me, or if they don't follow the directions. And I'm not like, it's not like, oh, where does the period go? It's like, I need you to answer these 5 questions. And if they don't, delete. Like I'm not even responding to that. So I will say we don't get a ton of people. So if you're clear on that from the very beginning, I think you can avoid that. And then I immediately give them a KPI. I know that's not typically how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to have an interview first. I do not. I KPI them. If they don't come in as a high fit, personally, I'm not having a conversation. We send them a message and it says, hey, thanks so much. Here are the results. I know you're not supposed to send them the KPI, but that's what I do. I send it to them and I say, what do you think of this? And it's funny because it'll show up like maybe the person is, maybe not literally the KPA will show that, will suggest that, and then they respond and you're like, oh, okay, validated. Or maybe they're like super high optimist, which I am too, but other things are, maybe it's high optimist and the intelligence thing is down. So then you get the response and maybe they're not detail oriented. So they review it and they came in as a low fit and they're like, oh yeah, everything in here is great. It's totally true, because they only focused on the positive things in there and didn't focus on the fact that like they're a really low fit. So you can tell a lot just by their responses. I do give them that one shot to be like, if they're like, this is just not me at all, then we may have them retake it. But if they come in as a high fit, then they get to have a 10-minute conversation with me. And I have key questions that I ask. And my first question is really like, how did you get here? Like, you're 35 years old, you live in Virginia, tell me about your life. And I want to hear their priorities. I want to hear what they care about. I want to know why they are interested in real estate. And if they talk about, you know, how they love houses, they're probably not for our team. And they may be for someone else's team, but they're not for my team, because I care about serving people. And if you're focused on like beautiful houses and you want to be in luxury, that's just not, it ain't us. So, but we can talk more offline, but those are some of the things I think about.
We could have a mastermind that goes on for hours, yet we are 3 minutes over our time. So I want to thank everybody for their time today. Most importantly, I want to thank Sheena for her taking time out of her busy schedule to be here and to pour into you guys. So thank you, Sheena, so much for today. And for folks that committed to Sheena, I will make sure that she gets your contact information, and we're following up with you, because we raised $1,500 today for clean water. Like, go us, which is really exciting. And if you find these masterminds fulfilling, exciting, it's helping you get connected and get some new ideas, I invite you to join us next month, because they're hosted every single month. First Thursday of every month, we host these masterminds, and every single month I bring you not only a powerhouse rock star, but they're always my friends. So I've got some really amazing friends.
You know what, Lindsay? You want to send those to me. I'll post in my group, you know?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So thank you guys. If you find this valuable, share with your friends. Let's get registered for the next one. You're going to get an email from me with the replay. So make sure that you check out the replay and get signed up for next month. Thank you, guys.